This lecture is about how the government can intervene to solve externalities. It can put limits on transactions using regulation, or it can put a tax or subsidy on a good to make sure that the social marginal cost or benefit equals the private marginal cost or benefit. The goal of the government action is to internalize the externality. That phrase means that we want private actors to take into account any costs or benefits that they're imposing on others. Externalities are a common enough thing that you hear about them in pop culture, including in The Simpsons. In one episode from season 2, Bart is fishing in a river downstream from the Springfield nuclear power plant. He catches a fish, but there's something wrong. The fish has 3 eyes. As a result, the Springfield power plant gets inspected and the government threatens to shut it down. What kind of government intervention is this? It's regulation. The government thinks that the externalities from nuclear power are too high and decides that it may just want to shut down the plant. This is like setting an optimal quantity of nuclear power of 0. But Mr. Burns, the owner of the power plant, fights back. He runs for governor in order to keep his power plant open. His campaign goes really well, and soon he's running neck and neck with the incumbent. But he's still seen as rich and out of touch. So his campaign decides to have Mr. Burns eat a dinner at the home of an employee, and they choose the Simpsons. Marge Simpson, who doesn't trust Mr. Burns, decides to get her revenge. She prepares fish for dinner, but chooses one particular fish, the 3-eyed fish from the beginning of the episode. Burns tries to choke down a bite, but spits it out in front of all the news cameras. It dooms his campaign. This is a very literal example of forcing someone to internalize the externality. Marge forced Mr. Burns to consume the fish, and he couldn't stomach it. This episode is neat because it illustrates externalities and the ways to fight them. But it also illustrates how government regulation can go wrong. In this case, Springfield was lucky, and Mr. Burns lost the election. But what if he'd won? In that case, the very government that was supposed to regulate externalities would have done whatever the power plant owner wanted. Put another way, even if we know the right thing for a government to do in theory, this episode shows that sometimes the government can be improperly influenced. Government intervention isn't a magic solution.